Welcome to the Entrepreneur Spouse Support Broadcast, a weekly 15-minute broadcast with your host, Joanie Winberg. Learn how to work, love, and survive life with an entrepreneur. Our special guests will be sharing tips, tools, and their success stories to help support entrepreneur spouses and their families. And now here's Joanie.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur Spouse Support Broadcast. How to work, love, and survive life with an entrepreneur. Helping entrepreneurs keep their relationship together and stronger than ever. Hello, it's Joanie Winberg, host of this broadcast, as well as facilitator of the Entrepreneur Spouse Support Coaching Program. Today we have a great show. We're going to talk about raw truths of getting paid from employee to entrepreneur. And I have a great guest. I've known him for a long time, Jeff Laurent, and he's going to join us and talk about some good points about helping you do that as far as transitioning from an employee to an entrepreneur. So Jeffrey, join us and tune in here.
It's great to have you. It's great to be here.
Yes, long time. So this is really an important topic, I think, to entrepreneurs. Everybody wants to live their dream and transition from that employee position to full-time at home like yourself as an entrepreneur. And you're going to tell us some raw truths about that. We've got some 3 top points that we want to talk about, and one of them is results versus time. So jump in there, Jeffrey, and tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges that a lot of employees have is that they have as an employee, you get paid for time essentially. So whether you're salary or you get paid by the hour, you go in, you punch in, or you go in, let's say 9 to 5 as an example. And while you're there, ideally you're productive, but at the end of the day, if you're not productive, it doesn't necessarily matter, because if you show up at 9 and you end at 5 and you punch a clock or you're a salary, you go home, you get paid no matter what. Now, obviously, if you do that for too long and you're not productive, you might get under review or maybe you get fired. But for the most part, you're going to get paid no matter what. The paycheck's going to show up in automatic deposit or however you're getting paid at the end of the 2-week cycle, and that's it. Whereas with an entrepreneur, we don't get paid for time. We get paid for results. So I can sit in my office here all day, every day for 8 hours. And it doesn't matter if I'm working my butt off. It doesn't matter if I'm surfing the internet and doing social media or emailing people or behind the scenes doing some website stuff or whatever it is. If I'm not creating any results, I'm not going to get paid. And that's a key thing, is that so if we understand that we get paid for results, not time, number one, it doesn't matter how much or little time we spend in our office. So in other words, I don't have to be here for 8 hours just because I feel like I have to be here for 8 hours. And when I started understanding that was helpful for me, because sometimes I felt like I needed to be there just because I had a business. And the more time I put in, it's just, I'm putting in the time. But the time didn't matter. It was the results I created within that time. So especially when it was nice outside or things like that, it's like, well, if I'm doing my work and I know what's required of me to create results, then if I can get that done, well, I don't have to spend that much time in there, or as much as I was. So then that leads me to share with you is start to understand, or begin to understand, where results are created for you in your specific business.
I hear from entrepreneurs too, is they say, I did work hard today, but it was busy work. It wasn't necessarily like you're talking about work that got results. It was busy work. Have you found that with entrepreneurs becoming aware of that?
Yeah, the big piece with that is the busy work's easy to do because it keeps you in an area that's somewhat comfortable. Mm-hmm. The results work for us entrepreneurs is connecting with people, creating conversations, building relationships, finding people that have a need and the timing might be right for that, creating an approach where we might ask if they'd ever consider working with us or hiring us or whatever your product or service is. That's the stuff for most people that is uncomfortable, because typically, especially with us coaches, we are the service. And so in a job, even if you were doing sales before in a job, you're not selling yourself or your own service. You're selling another product. You're doing it for somebody else. And there's a big difference in that. And so that busy work kind of keeps us feeling like we're doing something, and we are doing something, but it's not the stuff that's going to get us the results.
Mm-hmm. I could see how that happens. And I think that's quite common with many first starting entrepreneurs and realizing that. You have another great second topic that you want to talk about is getting paid as an employee versus entrepreneur. And I know you touched upon this a little bit, but maybe you want to go into it a little bit more.
Yeah. So as for an employee, you get paid for what the job is worth. So if a certain position pays $40 an hour, then you're going to get paid $40 an hour. It doesn't matter what experience you have, what you bring to the table, specific skill sets, et cetera, or not. If you're going to get hired for that position, you're getting paid what the position is worth. And even when you're in that position, if you develop yourself, if you do all these things, you can go to courses that get you better at that job. You're only going to get paid what that job's worth. And then whatever, reviews are, et cetera, percentage increase in salary or whatever every year. Whereas an entrepreneur, we get paid for the value we bring to the market. In other words, the value is the value of our product, the value of our service, the value of what we do. So we get paid essentially what we're worth, right? We can put our own price tag on typically a service-based thing like coaching as an example. Mm-hmm. And so the challenge there is that we now have to develop ourselves. And that's where we bring that value. So that's the part of the challenge as an entrepreneur is, as I said earlier, is that a lot of it comes back onto us and our own self-worth and our own vision of the value of what we bring. And so that's why it's so important to be able to constantly look at ourselves and to say, what areas do I need to work on in order to become better so I become more valuable within what I'm offering? Mm-hmm. And because this is a great part about entrepreneurship is that the more we develop ourselves, the more we show up in a different manner. So we can show up more confident. We can show up more fluent in terms of how I speak, the words I use, how I'm able to communicate those words, how I'm able to interact and communicate with people. Those are all skill sets that I would think are challenging for a lot of people. I know they were challenging for me, except for I had to work on those things and I recognized those things. And again, that's what made me become more valuable. And as I became more valuable, I brought more value to the market because people saw that, they felt it, and they were willing to hire me and pay money for my services.
And I know too, I had haven't gone through the coaching process myself and even known a lot of coaches. Generally, you and I just have a lot of high energy, and we've done that together at a conference, and there's just high energy. So for me, it's easy for you. Some coaches I found to be more quieter and shy, or, want to just stay in their zone. So I can see where your great value is helping them discover some of their strengths to that degree so that they do show up and bring the value to the table. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And that's why I found passion in helping those entrepreneurs. And because I'm not an extroverted person. I'm not someone who.
But I've seen you on a stage.
Yeah,
you're awesome.
Because I can be on a stage, I can be in this, and in there, it's my passion for helping people. It's my passion for delivering information, and that kind of shines through. But I much prefer to be alone and quiet, and with one or two friends, or my girlfriend, or with my son, or things like that. It's those things that I treasure the most. When I get into this situation, though, that's what I'm saying is what I realize is those things that were hard for me, that I didn't like speaking and being in front of people and communicating, all those pieces of it, those are the things that I realized, like, if I actually want to make it in this world, I've got to learn how to do that. I got to become more comfortable with it. And so I found out how to. It doesn't mean you have to be extroverted and animated. You could be who you are. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean you have to have those attributes, if you will, to be successful. However, it's what you do require is the ability to connect with people, and you got to speak your message. That's the bottom line.
Right. Absolutely. One of the other topics you want to talk about, and I think we're touching upon all of these a little bit at a time here, but as kind of cross-referencing as well, salary versus commission. So touch upon that a little bit, Jeffrey.
Yeah, I mean, I like to describe it like this: in a job, whether you're getting paid by the hour or getting paid by salary, whatever it is, that's typically the way it happens. Whereas when you're an entrepreneur, I'll say it like this: you're 100% commission salesperson, right? And when I say that, when I think about that, I'm like, well, that's not what I signed up for. And I'm assuming a lot of other entrepreneurs, after working with them, a lot of them is not an assumption. It's just we're coming into this world of entrepreneurship because we have a passion for something, and however the experience has come upon us, we are like, now, oh, I want to take this, use it as a business and help other people with it. What we're not signing up for is the business aspect of it, or a lot of times really realizing that, okay, you're essentially, if you're doing this, you're 100% commission. I mean, you're only going to get paid off of the work that you sell, if you will, with whatever your product or service is. And especially if you have a service-based product like we do, Joanie, of coaching, that's what you're getting paid for. And you're 100% commission, because if you're not selling any coaching, then you're not getting paid.
Right.
And the reason I bring that is for most coaches, it's a shock to hear that. The reality of it, though, is it's the truth. And I don't care how you want to relabel it. At the end of the day, we're 100% strict commission salesperson. And so with that, I'm hoping that hits you hard for some people listening, because if you're not comfortable with the skill set of selling and understanding that so you can do it with ease and it can actually be fun, then you're going to have challenges. And way back when I started realizing that, my mentor was looking at me and helped me with my business. He looked at me and he's like, dude, you need to learn how to sell. That's exactly what he said. He's like, dude, you need to learn how to sell. And I'm like, sell? What do you mean? And of course I knew what selling meant, but I didn't really know what it meant. And so I started to learn from him, and I started to observe. So I'm not like the strict, like, oh, I've taken courses on selling and things like that, but I've learned and observed from people and mentors that I admired, that I liked their style because it felt good. It felt different than the stereotypical, if you will, salesperson that maybe you and I don't like, or we don't like those experiences, and we don't want to be like that or appear like that in our business. And that's where, when I help coaches transition to a full-time business as entrepreneurs, one of the biggest things I relate everything back to is selling. That's why the name of my business, if you will, is Selling Coaching, because I want to help entrepreneurs understand what is the art of selling and how does it work, and how do we create those conversations and lead ourselves to an approach and the business, and have it feel good, not only for us, but also have it feel good for the person on the other end. So it's just a seamless process. But at the end of the day, we have business and we're getting paid, because at the end of the day, if we're not getting paid, it's just a hobby.
That's right. I've heard that a lot. What was somebody here? So as far as, tell me a little bit, just kind of a side note here, because I know we kind of try to keep it laser focused here, but also I also like to make it personal. So anything you'd like to share, Jeff, that you've gone through, because I am all about helping spouses keep that relationship or relationships in general, keeping them together and stronger than ever. So just a little tidbit, so to speak, or added feature here, if you'd like to, or benefit, if you'd like to share with us something personal that maybe helped you become an entrepreneur and stay an entrepreneur for a long time that you have been.
The biggest thing I'd say would be just self-discipline. And I believe that no one just has natural self-discipline. Some people would think of that like, oh my God, I have no discipline, etc. And I'm not any better or worse than anybody else. We all have the ability to. And so that's one thing is I had to realize is we all have it. It's just how do we set ourselves up in a position to extract that.
So if you had to give an example, what would you say is your self-discipline? Like if you're facing a day?
Self-discipline to show up in my office at a certain time. Okay. The self-discipline to leave my office at a certain time, especially within a family unit. And no matter what your family unit looks like, with children, without children, spouse, any of those things, is we need to have business hours. So it's like we thrive as children growing up with a bedtime and a wake time, and when we're really young, a nap time, etc. And when does that start to change as an adult? And then as in a job, you show up at 9, you go home at 5, as an example. You don't show up maybe at 10 and then leave for a little bit and then come back. Maybe you use your sick time, but the point is you've got a schedule. So as an entrepreneur, some of the things I say is treat your business like a job. I mean, the fundamentals of a job is you show up and you leave at a certain time. You don't just stay late at a job just because you know what I mean? So same thing with entrepreneurship. Sometimes when we get in the zone and maybe we are disciplined and at the 5 o'clock hour, if you will, sometimes it's hard to go away. That's a good thing. Yet at the same time, we deserve to get away from there because we have a family or we have other pieces. Even if it's not family, it's just, what about working out, right? What about just having personal time or downtime away from the office? So it's those go into the pieces of the whole, and the business is just a part of your whole. And so remembering that, especially in those times when you're just like in and on and laser focus, right? And you have a project or you have something that's going really well and things start to move, and it's not hard to get in. You've got to remember to get out.
Get out. I was going to say, not to get out.
And then on the other end, when maybe nothing's going on or things are slow and you're just in a funk or you can't get it together, and it's easy to get out, you've got to make sure you've got to get in at a certain time. And so if I were to say anything about the self-discipline, it's about knowing when you're getting in and when you're getting out based on those different times and honoring those. And then tying it back into what I said earlier is knowing what activities create those results. And it's finding an avenue to be able to have the discipline to do those activities on a daily, weekly basis with some consistency. And there's a lot of different strategies. We won't go into it now, right? There's a million different strategies.
That could be another glass of wine or another show.
Exactly. But that's the point is it's having that piece, because it's at the end of the day, once you start to understand what the activities are, you can only do so much in a certain time frame, like today.
Right.
And at some point you got to be like, I'm done and I'm going to get out of there. But the key is doing them the next day and the next day. And it's the consistency over time. This isn't rocket science, but yet it's the discipline to get in there and to get those done every day.
Perfectly said. Jeffrey, I'm just so glad that you showed up today and I showed up today and we made it work and kicked in the discipline here. It's been a joy, and you've given us a lot of information, a lot of valuable information. I want people to really know how to connect with you, because they might need, that transition, that help from going from the employee, being an employee, to an entrepreneur. So what's a good website for you, or contact information, either way?
The best way to get a hold of me is my website. It's sellingcoaching.com, just as it sounds, sellingcoaching.com. And right in on the homepage, I've got a great resource, especially for coaches, the Ultimate Startup Guide for new coaches. There's a great resource there. And then if they want to reach out to me personally, there's a work with me page. They can scroll to the bottom and there's a form there that they can fill out, and we can always connect. And also right on my university on sellingcoaching.com, I've got a lot of great detailed education as well, if they want to just start, getting in there and listening and learning and getting a feel for some of the things that I teach that can start to help them right away.
Sounds great. Well, once again, it's a pleasure to reconnect. Many, many years that we've known each other, and to have the opportunity to have you share all this great, valuable information. So thanks again, Jeffrey, for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, Joanie. It's been awesome reconnecting, and awesome to be on your show.
And then also to our listeners, you can go and hear this again, this great video, and see the video is at entrepreneurspousasupport.com. I'm Joanie Winberg, as I mentioned earlier, facilitator of the Entrepreneur Spouse Support Program, a coaching program. So feel free to reach out on my website. In the meantime, have a great week, and we'll talk to you next week. Thanks. Bye-bye.